Oh yeah. Mixed martial arts. Mixed martial arts. How do we like our martial arts? We like it mixed.
Why are you so quiet, Casey? Why was that? Why was the song singing so quiet? I don't understand. Maybe that'll be revealed in a moment. But welcome to our weekend preview show. We have a lot of events going on this weekend. We had a Gervonta Davis, Ryan Garcia preview show, which you can go back and watch right here on the network. But we have Bellator 294 later on tonight. Tomorrow we have Bellator 295, and we also have UFC Vegas 71. We have Davis Garcia. We have Influencer Boxing. Just so much going on. But thank you for joining us. I am Mike Heck, being joined once again by Jose Youngs, live from Phoenix, Arizona.
Go Red Sox.
Yes. And also my best friend is here, Alexander K. Lee. There he
Go
is. Hi,
Raptors. Go Raptors. Go Raptors. Tough day. It's a tough day.
Hey, who's your head coach now?
Ime Udoka.
That's probably what
You can have him.
I don't want him.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we do have a little bit of news right off the bat. The flyweight bout that was set for Bellator 295 tomorrow between Kyoji Horiguchi and Ray Borg, it is no longer happening. You may have saw the tweet from the Bellator PR account. And for those who are thinking to themselves, why did this happen? Whatever you think is the reason why is probably the reason why. I was told by a Bellator official it is due to weight management issues on the Ray Borg side. And now this fight will no longer be happening on tomorrow's card. The fight between Yancy Medeiros and who is his opponent? Charlie Leary. That is moving up to the main card. So I was on the Bellator Zone preview show and we were talking about this fight. And I went on a rant about this fight in particular because it was happening at 125 and it made literally no sense to do that. Ray Borg's last 4 or 5 fights were at 135. Kyoji Horiguchi was a former bantamweight champion. There is no flyweight division for Bellator. I just never understood why this fight was at flyweight. But the biggest obstacle we needed to get over is the reason why this fight is no longer happening on Saturday, I'm told. AK, you might be angrier than anybody else. Your reaction to this news?
I'm so mad. I think I had to double check like last week. I was like, did they really book this at flyweight? I don't understand. I believe Koji Horiguchi has been competing back at flyweight over in Japan. Fine, okay. But again, this is we're talking about Bellator. They don't have a flyweight division. We know Ray Borg struggles to make 125. He's missed so many fights at flyweight. Again, I hope he's okay. But this has happened many, many, many times in the past. His last 3 fights for Eagle FC were all at bantamweight. And he won them, by the way. He's on a 3-fight win streak at 135 pounds. Clearly, he's just not made to make 125 with any sort of consistency or reliability. We know Kyoji Horiguchi can compete at 135. He was a champion in Ryzen. He was a champion in Bellator. You have a bantamweight division, Bellator. Why did they do this? Can I swear now? Is it too early in the? Do we get demonetized if I swear within the first like 10 minutes of the show or something like that? How does that work?
I think it's like in the first 90 seconds or something. So you're go
swear?
ahead, AK.
Can I swear now? Can I swear now?
Sure, why not?
Why the fuck are you booking Ray Borg at 125 pounds in an important fight? Why would you do this? Why would you do this? I'm upset. Why did we start off the show with this? I'm so mad
it's
right
breaking
now.
news. We had
I'm so mad.
The tweet was somewhat vague. We got some information, and I wanted to share it with the people. So, yeah, it's unfortunate news.
Facts only, my best friend. I don't know why. Facts only.
Jose, why do we do this? Why was this set up this way? Puzzling.
Because Bellator is the same promotion that booked Deanna Bennett in a flyweight title fight when she can barely make one flyweight either. So Do better, Bellator.
Yeah, I don't even want to get into that whole situation
Yes.
where Liz Carmouche could lose the belt tonight, and I don't understand. I don't understand what's happening at 125 over there, but it's okay. We're gonna try to stay positive. The cards are pretty solid. Bellator 295, the main event is very, very good. Very, very good.
Let's not forget, this is also the same promotion that decided to halt their own hype train that is Big Tuna for reasons unbeknownst to anyone. Like, let's stop trying to pretend like we're trying to figure out why Bellator books fights.
I will never forgive them for the Big Tuna booking in the card placement, but it's okay. We try to move on. I guess we'll start with UFC Vegas 71, then we'll transition back to Bellator. But UFC's back at the hallowed Apex. AK, we have heavyweights taking center stage. Curtis Blaydes versus Sergei Pavlovich, and in most situations, in most promotions, there would be a lot riding on this fight. There would be a lot riding on it. We have Curtis Blaydes on a nice run, probably is earned a title shot many, many wins ago. Sergei Pavlovich has been coming on strong, just melting people, incredible performances. But we have John Jones as the champion, a potential fight with Stipe Miocic in the wings. Jailton Almeida is getting ready to fight Jairzinho Rozenstruik in a main event next month in Charlotte, North Carolina. So let me ask you this, AK. What are these two men fighting for tomorrow?
I think it is an important fight. I think the stakes are pretty clear. Yes, Stipe and John Jones is on the table. Listen, that is plan A, plan B, plan C for the UFC in regards to going forward with their heavyweight division. We all want to see that fight. It's a cool fight. It's a legacy fight. But listen, these guys are... Nothing is guaranteed in the UFC. I don't want to assume that something bad is going to happen to John Jones in the next 6-7 months. But again, maybe he suffers a minor injury and can't make it. Maybe Stipe Miocic suffers a minor injury and can't make it. Maybe there's issues in the negotiating table. That's certainly something both men have publicly, spoken about, dealing with the UFC. And there's a chance that fight either doesn't come together or doesn't come together as quickly and as conveniently as they'd like. And again, maybe it gets made and one of them has to fall out. So Saturday's winner, Sergei Pavlovich or Curtis Blaydes, is in prime position to step in and get that fight. Maybe they fight Stipe for an interim title. Maybe they get to fight John Jones. People have wanted to see Curtis Blaydes fight John Jones for the longest time. They love the style matchup, so this is huge for him. It does. I understand if everything plays out sort of as expected with Stipe and John Jones fighting sooner rather than later. It does feel like Sergei and Curtis are kind of just fighting to hold on to their spot, and that's tough. But listen, that's the cards they've been dealt. And again, you mentioned Jairzinho Rozenstruik, of course, and Jailton Almeida. You could just take the two winners of these fights and pair them up against each other to create the next contender. Or again, maybe guys will fight for a vacant title if Stipe and John Jones just both decide to retire after the next fight. Because John Jones keeps joking like, "Oh, I just want to fight Stipe, and that'll be what a way to end my career." But we don't know. He's so unpredictable. Stipe, we don't know how many fights he has left. So I think there's a lot in line. I don't think they're necessarily just treading water. I think it's hugely important for both these guys to win. Not that a loss completely knocks them out of the sphere of contendership, but it's certainly nice to be in there right now because they could be in one of those big heavyweight fights before the end of the year. But yeah, you got to win it though.
I would say we sort of talked about the stakes on BTL yesterday, but one question I did want to ask you is, AK put it like this: a loss doesn't completely hinder title hopes, but it definitely creates a speed bump. That's for sure. So, in your opinion, who needs this win more? Is it Curtis Blaydes or is it Sergei Pavlovich?
Probably Curtis Blaydes. He's been in the UFC obviously longer. I feel like we've gone to like if anyone watched everyone watching the show, you all watched the Media Day Scrum on MMA Fighting YouTube page, so I don't have to remind you. But for those of you who haven't, which I know it doesn't exist, Curtis Blaydes said like he was presenting this question like it seems like every time he reaches this point, he falters. Like when he lost to Francis in China, when he lost to Derek Lewis, and all these stuff. So I feel like what like Dana White said about Beneil Dariush, where if he didn't have bad luck, he would have no luck, is also applicable to Curtis Blaydes, where he reaches this supposed number one contender fight, and then something happens. Either he loses, or John Jones comes back, or Stipe and Daniel Cormier take a bunch of time off to do 3 fights in 3 years, and then Daniel Cormier retires, and then Stipe takes more time off, and then Francis leaves. So I would say Curtis Blaydes is perennially he's just running out of matchups at heavyweight, and he's pretty much fought everyone in this division. Sergei Pavlovich is still sort of new to the scene, and when I say the scene, I mean the top 5 of the heavyweight division, because if you go back to watch that Derek Lewis fight, I think I said, like, his talent does not reflect on the rankings. He just hasn't been able to be as active as he's wanted to do because of visa issues and all sorts of this and that. So I would say Curtis Blaydes, he's the more known name, and lose a known name, losing to someone that can't speak English, which affects his marketing ability in America, and not a lot of people know, and is semi-new to the top 5 of this division, probably hurts a lot more than Sergei Pavlovich losing to a guy that's beating everyone else in the top 10.
I would agree with you that Curtis Blaydes needs this one more. I feel like he's been just running uphill no matter how many wins he gets and how he does it. But this is an interesting fight. So, AK, we have a lot of events and fights to talk about. So, right now, according to the betting lines, Curtis Blaydes, the -170 favorite, the comeback on Sergei Pavlovich, +145. The winner could perhaps win the Jailton Almeida sweepstakes should he be successful against Jairzinho Rosenstrike. So, AK, who gets this one done? Will it be Curtis Blaydes or Sergei Pavlovich?
Curtis Blaydes all the way, man. I got Curtis Blaydes all the way. I don't know if Sergei Pavlovich's takedown defense is going to hold up. I think Curtis is going to be very smart about not playing around too much on the feet. Listen, he knows his stand-up's improved. He's shown that there's some heavyweights he can outstrike, he can knock out. That's fine. That's great. His bread and butter is that great wrestling, great ground and pound. And I don't want to necessarily say it's a weakness for Sergei Pavlovich. Again, we only sort of had to have sort of the Overeem fight as evidence of like him losing in the UFC and kind of showing some of his weaknesses. But you certainly don't want to stand and bang with him. I mean, he's just one of the deadliest guys at heavyweight right now. I mean, his power is legit. He's really fast for his size. I think he can take a shot. Not that he's had to take too many. So if you're Curtis, man, you're just trying to get this one down, and I think he can. I don't think it's going to be a super. I think Sergei's going to she'll have some resistance, but I think Curtis will be able to get him down enough times, wear him down, and I think he gets a knockout too. I think he finished his ground and pound, just really puts the pressure on him. And maybe I'm just being super optimistic for Curtis Blaydes, but I think he stamps himself as the guy to get that shot, no matter what happens in the Rosenstrike Almeida fight.
Jose, what's your pick here? Look, a lot of people go back to the Overeem fight when it comes to the defensive grappling prowess, if you will, of Sergei Pavlovich. And I know that fight was a long time ago. And some people are like, well, you're telling me no one can improve in 6 years' time, but we just don't have the evidence of it because Pavlovich is going in there murking people in 90 seconds. So we don't know. So is it something to you where until I see that improvement, I just can't pick against Curtis Blaydes? Or do you think that Pavlovich has the death swarm, so to speak, not the death touch, but the death swarm, the, as you put it, smelling blood and attacking like nobody else in this division? Will it be Pavlovich getting the hand raised or Blaydes getting it done?
Yeah, he has death by 1,000 lunchboxes. That's Sergei Pavlovich's, and none of the lunchboxes miss. That's for sure. I tend to believe Sergei Pavlovich when he reflects on that Overeem loss. He said it at media day too. He's asked this every single fight week, like to reflect on that fight, and he arrived in that fight was in China, and he arrived in China the week of the fight, and it just threw him off. He said his body didn't adjust to the time change, didn't acclimatize and everything. And that, he said, was his biggest learning. He has to take this seriously. He has to get there early. So he's been in Vegas for, I think, 2.5 weeks to prepare for Curtis Blaydes. Now, I don't know how good his wrestling is because, like you said, we haven't had to see it. And by all accounts, he hasn't really fought anyone in the UFC that has elite wrestling like Curtis Blaydes, but you would also be hard-pressed to find a heavyweight with elite wrestling like Curtis Blaydes. I think John Jones is probably the best example of it. I was also looking at Sergei Pavlovich's resume yesterday after Between the Links, just because I was curious about like what his opponents were doing before they fought Sergei. He's only fought one guy in the UFC on a win streak, and that was Maurice Green. Everyone else has been on at least a 2 to 3 to 4 fight losing streak, and usually they're pretty bad losses, like Derek Lewis, Tai Tuivasa, Overeem, Shamil. Like, you go on a losing streak, and then here's your punishment, Sergei Pavlovich, and then he just beats the soul out of you. So Curtis Blaydes is not that. He is not only on a winning streak, he has looked very impressive. I know the Tom Aspinall fight, there are questions, but I still picked Curtis Blaydes to beat Tom Aspinall just because of his wrestling. I'm going to stick with Curtis Blaydes too. I think he can win either violently on the ground, he can win boringly on the ground, which a win is a win. I'm not knocking him. If he just 50-44s him, if he does what he did to Volkov, I won't fault him at all for that, especially if Sergei Pavlovich is in front of you. You're going to want to take him off the feet, and you're going to want to hold him down. If Sergei Pavlovich can't get Curtis Blaydes off of him, he doesn't deserve to win. I'm going to pick Curtis Blaydes by however he wants, but I'm not pick like Sergei Pavlovich could touch him once, but he's not like Derek Lewis or Francis Ngannou where your feet are going to leave the ground. But for all we know, that's another question we could have too, because did you see Tai Tuivasa's face after that fight? He was bleeding out of every hole in his head. Tough fight for both men. As I said, AK, I asked Mike this yesterday. Do you know what an ape index is?
It's a length thing, right?
Yeah, it's like the ratio of your wingspan, so your height, and the average person is 1. Sergei Pavlovich's is 9. It is allegedly the biggest in all of UFC. So that is bananas. If that's true, have fun with that, Curtis Blaydes. But I'm still picking Curtis Blaydes to win.
Does that change your pick at all, AK?
No, man, no. And I should have said I'm very familiar with Ape Index, of course, as our dear Masayu Ujiri in Toronto goes to that chart very often when trying to sign people and figure out draft picks. And sorry, guys, a lot of Raptors stuff in my mind with Nick Nurse out. No, it doesn't change it. I think I trust Curtis to be able to get inside and avoid that big kibosh, because I understand why people would be picking Sergei Pavlovich. We've seen. People are probably getting Ngannou flashbacks. They're probably thinking of Sergei like a Russian Ngannou. It's Curtis Blaydes ran to this guy twice, just got clipped, got rocked, got knocked out by Derek Lewis. He can get hit and KO'd. But like I said, against Derek Lewis, he kind of messed around a little bit. He kind of effed around and he found out. He better not do that against Sergei. Just go to what brought you to the dance, Curtis Blaydes, and it will take you to the promised land. You are so close. So close to a title shot. I really believe that.
The landscapers are right out front, AK. So give us a gymnastics scale while I wait for them to part ways.
It's going to be lower than last week. That Holloway Allen card I thought was pretty nice, but I'll still keep it above 8. Let's go like 8.1, 8.2. I don't mind this card. Next week's card, and besides, I have to set some sort of precedent, because next week's card probably is not going to register above an 8. Not to be pessimistic, not to be a little prince of negativity there, but I don't know if it's making it past that threshold. So I'll go 8.1, 8.2. There's definitely a few fights I'm interested in. There's some people I don't know a lot about who could show out and impress me. It's a bit opposite than last week's card. Last week's card, we kind of joked, is a bit of an old people's card. We had Ed Herman, we had Zach Cummings, we had even Max Holloway in the main event, Edson Barbosa, Clay Guida. There was some venerable talents on there. This card, we got some young people. We got some young folks. We got Yasmin Lucindo. She's 21, I think, 21 or 22. Francis Marshall's a baby. A lot of fighters, 26, 27 and under. So very different feel to this card. Whether that's more or less appealing to people, I'm not sure. I'm sure it's nice to have that name value of like Clay Guida. But again, let's file this one under. It's always the cards you don't talk about that deliver. So I'm probably being maybe a little too optimistic. But 8.1, 8.2.
Yeah, we have a massive boxing fight coming up later tonight. Let's just give you something decent and we'll lead it in nicely. Brad Tavares, Bruno Silva is an interesting fight. Bobby Green is obviously the last fight is Bobby Green because he's going to be king. Jared Gordon,
he's
his opponent.
He's just king. He's going to be a mononym. He's just king.
Yeah, but Jose,
I want him to keep his nickname, so he's King.
So he's King. Okay. All right. Fair enough.
So much better. That's so much better. You mentioned Yasmin Lucindo, Brogan Walker, Jeremiah Wells, Matthew Semplensberger is going to be a chaotic fight. Montel Jackson, Ronnie Yaya is on this card. There's some decent fights on this one. There's some decent fights. Francis Marshall's back against William Gomi. Muhammad Usman makes his, I guess, official UFC debut against Junior Tafa. That fight probably ain't going to the card. So,
oof.
What's the oof?
That someone's dying in that fight.
Probably. That's
Junior Tafa is so good at punching people, and Muhammad Usman looks like a linebacker. That's unbelievable. That fight is unbelievable. I wish that fight was on the main card, just because for the sheer absurdity of it.
Yeah, that should be a lot of fun. So we got Bellator 294, obviously, today, going on tonight, but we have Bellator 295 tomorrow. And AK Raufeon Stots, the interim bantamweight champion, he has made it to the finals, got some nice victories over Juan Archuleta and Danny Sabatello. He will take on fellow finalist Patchy Mix, who has flipped to the favorite over the last day or so. He is I think he's a minus 110 favorite in this fight. And this is just a fantastic main event, AK. A fantastic fight. Someone's going to be a millionaire. Someone's going to be waiting for the winner of the Sergio Pettis-Patricio Pitbull fight. Your thoughts on this Bantamweight Grand Prix finale between Raufeon Stots and Patchy Mix, because this fight just friggin' rules.
Bantamweights. It's a great division. It's a great division. I think one of the reasons we're always like promoting it as the best division is because there's so much of a strong 135-pound presence in other promotions besides the UFC. Not that Bellator doesn't have good lightweights, but I think when people are talking about lightweight being the best division, it's like primarily guys in the UFC. There's certainly good guys in other promotions, but primarily guys in the UFC. Bellator legitimately has its own like super great bantamweight division. A bunch of guys who you put them in the octagon, I assure you they would be competitive. Very likely top 5 contenders. Either the guys we're talking about now, Patchy Mix and Raufeon Stots. I mean, it's a super deep division, but it would not shock me if they jumped into the top 5 in the UFC after 2 or 3 fights if they went over there. But that doesn't matter. They're in Bellator. They're in this awesome Grand Prix. They're fighting for it's $1 million. It has $1 million prize, right?
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, they're fighting for $1 million. They're fighting for a unification bout. This is good stuff, man. I mean, this is just it's super exciting, and I love the style matchup. Raufeon Stots, is a great wrestler, good all around fighter. Patchy Mix, great grappler. I think there's gonna be some insane scrambles. There'll be some fun exchanges on the feet as well. It'll be. I know we hyped up a lot of these Bellator Grand Prix fights a lot, and Stots, Sabatello. It couldn't live up to the trash talk, to the animosity. That turned out to kind of be a bad clash of styles. It wasn't a super eventful fight, and that's fine. But I think with Patchy Mix and Raufeon Stots, you're going to be a lot more satisfied. So Bellator, listen, they got the best fight of the weekend. They had another one of the best fights of the weekend that we lost. Just thinking about it's making me so angry. But focusing on the positives. This is if you watch one MMA fight this weekend, which would be weird. I don't know when there's like 40 fights on why you'd only watch one fight. Make it Raufeon Stots versus Patchy Mix.
Jose, in the only rankings that matter, the champion, Raufeon Stots, ranked number 11 at 135. Patchy Mix tied for 8th, ranked higher than Raufeon Stots in our rankings. He is tied with Umar Nurmagomedov, excuse me, tied for 8th. True or false? The winner of this fight, if you could, let loose the Jose Young's personal rankings, true or false, the winner of this fight is a top 5 bantamweight in your opinion?
Ooh. I'm looking at our thing right now. No. But they would be like 6 or 7. That's tough. I think they'd be 6 or 7 in my mind. Because I don't think either of them beats Umar. And he's sitting at 8. Both of them, I think, are hyper competitive. And it's 50-50 against Rob, Marlon, the way Petr Yan has looked lately. I think both men present issues to Sean O'Malley, and I don't think either one beats Sandhagen, Merab, or Aljamain. So I'm gonna say 6 or 7, but they could very easily beat 2 or 3 in that top 5, but just rankings wise, meritocracy wise, not talent wise, I'd probably put them 6 or 7. But I wish we could get those fights. I really do.
It would be good. I'm back. I don't know why I disappeared.
And I would favor both men over the current champion, Sergio Pettis.
Yeah, I could see
Because this is
that.
for the interim.
Yes.
Now, if Patricio beats Sergio Pettis, have fun with that. Whoever wins the interim title.
But that fight's pretty interesting too. AK,
Mhm.
top 5 in your rankings on the line here?
Jose kind of presented the problem there. So we have Umar at 8, and Umar is really in that spot, both based on his accomplishments and some projection. There is some of us who think like if he fought Aljamain Sterling tomorrow, he might beat his ass. So that's why Umar is so high. But there's names above him. Again, Jose kind of mentioned this that I would be very comfortable saying Patchy or Raufeon Stots would beat. I'd like them against Rob Font. I'd like them against Chito Vera, Piotr Jan. And I know that this isn't just us. I'm sure if you ask a lot of people who they favor, Sean O'Malley or Patchy Mix or Sean O'Malley or Stotts, they'd probably go with the Bellator guys. So the rankings are a funny thing, right? It is a mixture of accomplishment and also projection and matchups, who would beat who. So I don't think, I'll say this, when we do our rankings, when we update them, I'm not sure if we're going to update bantamweight this weekend. I'm going to have a little bit of trouble moving them past Umar. I don't know if I'm quite ready for that yet. But I will say method will matter. Method will matter. In my rankings, I have Mix 1 spot behind Umar. I actually have Umar at 8, like our consensus rankings, and Mix at 9. So I don't know if Mix were able to, like, if he submitted Stotts first round, second round, really at any point in the fight, if he pulled off a convincing submission, maybe based on the accomplishment, I do give him that bump over Umar. So I'm not going to promise it, but there's some other names ahead. Sandhagen's a guy who I'd like against both these guys, so it's tough. But the fact that they're even close, considering how deep this division is, I think says a lot about like how intriguing this matchup is.
Do you think either man beats DJ? Because DJ technically weighs in at 135.
I would like.
DJ is a small bantamweight. DJ's but freaking Adrian Moraes is also a huge bantamweight. It's tough.
I probably like DJ against if I was a gun to my head, I'd probably pick DJ against both these guys. Probably.
It's close. I think Mix probably matches up better with DJ because he's just a monster, and I feel like he's coming into his own. But DJ's probably DJ's a better striker than Patchy. But the ground exchanges between those two guys would be really fun. Stotts too. But we'll see. I think method matters for my rankings too. If Patchy goes out and finishes Raufeon Stots, there's a good chance I'm putting him in my top 5.
I'd probably slot him at 6.
It's just do I bump him above Vera and Piotr Jan? That's the decision I'm going to have to make, but I probably will.
I guess we haven't updated these rankings since Corey Sandhagen's win, right?
That's a good question.
Did we do a full ranking shuffle?
No, we have not.
No. So like Corey would, but like right now Corey sits at 5. I would probably put him at 4, and Jan would drop down to 5. I would have no problem putting Patchy Mix at 5 or Raufeon Stots at 5 if that's the case. But as they sit now, either they're not going over Corey Sandhagen, O'Malley, or Merab, or Aljamain. Obviously, it's just a matter of who's sitting at 5. So I could put them at 5 then if it's Piotr Jan.
Yeah, I have. I think we updated, but we didn't put it out there yet. Sterling, Merab, Sandhagen, O'Malley, Jan as my top 5, and then it's Vera, Font, Mix. So we'll see. We'll see how this all plays out. So anybody picking Raufeon Stots here? Stots was the favorite. It is flipped to Patchy Mix now the favorite. AK, are you going with and still interim champion Raufeon Stots, new millionaire, and new Patchy Mix interim champion, new millionaire?
Yeah, I am going with the now underdog, Raufeon Stots. I like him. Again, maybe this is just like a vibes pick. I like both guys. But I like Raufeon a lot. I think there's a confidence he brings. And listen, Patchy has looked fantastic since the Juan Archuleta fight. Even the Juan Archuleta fight, he looked good. I mean, it's not like he got just destroyed. That was a really, really fun, really good fight. So he's definitely like learned a lot. He's grown a lot. He's trended in the direction you want to see someone trend when they lose a tough fight like that. They lose their first shot at a world title. So he's done all the right things, but I do think Stots has sort of an X factor to him. Size wise, yeah, again, you gotta like Patchy. I think Stots maybe a little quicker, maybe a little more explosive. It's tough, man. This is like the margins. The margins here are so small. I do like it to go the distance. I do think it'll be unanimous, convincing enough from Raufeon Stots. It'll be unanimous. But one of those fights where he could win like 49-46, but that doesn't tell how close the fight is. Like some of the rounds could be toss ups and really close fights. And but yeah, I like Stots to take a decision, and it won't be the last time we see these two guys fight.
God, I hope not. Jose, you're on mix, right?
Yeah, I'm on record on BTL picking Patchy, and I'm going to pick him by submission, actually. But I think it'll be late. I think what Danny Sabatello was doing I scored it for Raufeon Stots when he fought Danny Sabatello, but if Patchy Mix has a lot of those positions, he's going to hunt for submissions, and he's not just going to like try to grapple you into the fence or into the canvas. I was real for a long time. I thought Kyoji Horiguchi he still could be one of the top 5 bantamweights in the world. What Patchy Mix did to him, Magomedov, I was super high on too. Patchy Mix has put him to sleep with a guillotine choke. I think that was my number 2 submission of the year. I just think Raufeon Stots is so talented. Patchy Mix is so talented. I think the first person to make a mistake is going to lose. And I think Patchy Mix has a much bigger killer instinct than Raufeon Stots. Raufeon Stots is more of I'm just going to dominate you, and Patchy Mix is I'm going to try to put you away. So I'm going to pick Patchy Mix because if he gets one opening, he's going to snatch on a neck or something. He's also, obviously, he's dating Tatiana Suarez, a lot of high-level wrestling when they train, where they train. So I'm going to pick Patchy Mix.
I'm going Patchy as well. It's a vibes pick. It's a different kind of vibes pick. But as soon as Mix finished Magomedov, I was just like, this dude might be the best bantamweight in the world. I don't know for sure, but I have a feeling by this time next year, we're going to be having that conversation. I was so impressed by that performance. I was so impressed by the Horiguchi win. He's just looked like a world beater. And Stots, had that nice finish of Archuleta, but that fight was not really going well for him until that finish happened. And then he struggled a bit with Danny Sabatello. Yes, he won the fight. I think the right guy won. But I saw a lot in that Sabatello fight that I think Patchy Mix is going to be able to take advantage of. Raufeon Stots is well coached, and it'll be interesting to see how they game plan for a guy like Patchy Mix. But I just feel like a lot of those questions I had about Patchy Mix and his potential, Patchy's been able to answer during this Grand Prix. I think he's just on one right now, and I'm going to pick him to. I don't think he finishes Raufeon Stots. If he does, that'd be absolutely incredible, but I think these two are going to have a good fight. Could be a 49-46 mix, could be a 48-47, but I think it's going to be one of those fights where it's over. We're just like, damn, Patchy Mix is really, really good. Raufeon Stots is also really good, but Patchy is just kind of on another level right now, and yeah, I'm riding that wave at this point. I just was so super impressed by those 2 wins in the Grand Prix, and let's see if he can do it again and become a millionaire and get a big fight for the undisputed bantamweight title, maybe end of this year, early next year. Rest of that Bellator main card, we'll have Alimale McFarland versus Kana Watanabe. Aaron Pico is back. First fight since the shoulder injury against Jeremy Kennedy. He now fights short notice opponent James Gonzalez. Yancy Medeiros, Charlie Leary. Also, a new main card fight after we lost Ray Borg versus Kyoji Horiguchi. Mads Burnell, Justin Gonzalez is a great fight. Kai Kamaka III, Adley Edwards should be fun. Samiko Inaba is back against Veda Arteaga. Keone Diggs is back against Weber Almeida. Bobby King just loves spoiling fun. Yes, against
Bobby King. That's
Alon
confusing.
Cruz.
We have
Bobby Green,
Bobby
King.
King. We have the former Bobby Green, now King, and we also have Bobby King fighting on set. That's confusing. That's very confusing.
Both lightweights too, by the way. Davion Franklin, against Kasim Aras. Ilara Joani versus Bruna Ellen, and Alexei Shurkovich versus Masayuki Kikuri. That is the first prelim fight, 170 pounds. Showtime. You can watch the prelims on MMAfighting.com. Same with the Bellator 294 prelims. And then you can watch the main card on Showtime. So let's go to the peeps. Let's see what they have to say. We could talk about all the combat sports action. There's Casey. That's why he was a little quiet. He's in the media room. Didn't want to call too much attention to himself, which is understandable.
In the media room, just everyone, boxing.
Boxing. What's the buzz like there, Casey? Is everyone just ramped up for this thing?
Yes, I would definitely say so. It is not a Mayweather fight week, but it's the closest thing I've felt to being at a Mayweather fight week, basically. And if it's a competitive fight and these guys have a rematch, it will be twice as big. Right now, what time is it now? So it's 10:30 in the morning right now. So the media room's kind of there's about, I don't know, 15 tables like Radio Row back there, but like for Mayweather ones there's like 30. So it's like half the size, but still much bigger than like a normal UFC pay-per-view. But yeah, it feels big, and the weigh-ins are just in a few hours.
Question, Casey, I have a question for you. About the median attendance, because obviously, like what you said, there's a lot of when Mayweather fights, there's way more tables. But do you think that's because, like, we know why? Because like when he fights Pacquiao and when he fights like all these other guys from other countries, those guys travel. Like when he fights Canelo, Mexico comes. When he fights, who do you fight? Maidana. When where's he? Yeah, all those guys come. Does Ryan Garcia, is there any sort of Mexican media presence there? Because he's not overly popular in Mexico, but the Oscar De La Hoya connection is sort of there.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like a Canelo fight because I think there's Mexican Americans. I think more people consider him like American Mexican.
He also can't. Yeah. He can't speak Spanish, and a lot of Mexicans don't really like Oscar De La Hoya. I'm just curious if, like,
it feels like two Americans are fighting.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah. A little bit, but nothing like 10% of that Canelo type of nationality feel.
Sure. Well, there's no one like Canelo.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And like I said, even for Davis, like 25% of that kind of Mayweather type of feel. Mm-hmm. But from what I told Fight Night, this will have a big celebrity type of feel. I don't know if
for sure.
Yeah. It's very hard to get into the building because it's so expensive. But being in the building for a Mayweather fight, it's like everyone dresses up. It's like prom. It's amazing. It's hard
Mayweather.
To describe.
Someone described it as Mayweather fights. Described it as the Sporting's version of the Met Gala, and I've always thought that was perfect.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So they're expecting tomorrow night's event at the T-Mobile to be kind of that same type of feel, where there's like a red carpet outside for like celebrities and things like that to show up for the event. Yeah, and I get to be inside the arena. Yay! Excited. They're not putting me in the outside.
That was a fun press conference yesterday too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that was a good one.
Freaking Oscar just turned it to 10 real quick. I was like, whoa! All right.
Oscar, I mean, that wardrobe was incredible. He looked like Uncle Jesse on Full House when he was performing like one of his doo-wop shows. Looked incredible.
All right. To the questions though, for the mixing the martial arts type of stuff. What we got here? All right.
Cachoeira versus Silva fight of the night should be fun while it lasts.
That be your fight of the night pick? Let me say something. First of all, this isn't going to matter to anyone listening to the show on Saturday, so apologies to anyone on the podcast network and anyone just watching this video tomorrow. We're actually in the middle of official weigh-ins as we record this show. Priscilla Cachoeira has not shown up yet. Plenty of time. 22 minutes left. Plenty time as we record. She has missed weight once in her UFC career, once by 3 pounds. She had a bad weight miss a while ago. So I'm just letting people know, if we want to talk about this fight, we can. It is by no means official and nowhere near official by, of course, Jose Young's cautionary standards. So just letting people know, you guys can talk about it, but she has not showed up to weigh-ins as I speak right now.
I mean, I don't even know how to transition because I don't want to jinx it. So
I'm sorry. I hate to be that guy. I gotta keep
I'm
it
just
real.
gonna say,
I'm sure
I'm
she'll
just
be
gonna
fine. I'm
say,
sure she'll.
I'm gonna go with perhaps, and just go from there. Sitting right on that fence. Does the other heavyweight fight go the distance? Usman versus Tafa. Both men have weighed in successfully. AK, is that accurate?
Correct.
Okay. Does this go? Well, does this go to the cards? AK.
Jose was talking about earlier. It shouldn't. It shouldn't. This should be explosive. But Mo Usman has had some funky fights in his day. I picked him to actually lose the Ultimate Fighter. I thought he would just get outworked, sort of outstruck by Zach Pauga. So I don't know. There really is a chance to go decision. Like he's absolutely has knockout power. We know Junior Tafa does, and the limited amount of fights that we've seen him in hasn't gone past the second round yet. 4 wins, 4 knockouts, 3 of them in the first round. But I do think there's a chance this could be a heavyweight over. Not to turn this into no bets barred. I don't know what the heavyweight over is. Over 1.5. If it's a good number, I would tell people sprinkle dollars on there for fun. Throw a toonie on there, my fellow Canadians, because Mo Usman fights can be really weird and sometimes a little disappointing from an action standpoint. So I'll say it's possible. I'm gonna have to look at that line myself, to be honest.
Jose, is this going to the cards?
Nope. I think Junior Tafa gets it done. I just think he is supremely talented at striking, former Glory guy. Not the biggest heavyweight, but Mo Usman is, you're basically punching a brick wall. I'm still picking Junior Tafa to win. I think both men have a very bright future. I just think Junior Tafa has a brighter future.
I think if Usman wins, it's going the distance. But if Tafa wins, it's not.
I agree.
If Usman wins, that means they're not really doing a lot of striking. Means Usman took this fight to the ground. There's a lot of top position stuff going on, and we've seen it in a lot of Usman's fights. Like sometimes he just wins fights that way, and you would think that his team's strategy is not to go in there and throw hammer and tongs with Junior Tafa, because that's probably not a great idea. But yeah, if Usman wins, it's probably going to the cards. That's what I think.
All right.
What's the people's main event tonight for Bellator? This is easy one, but AK, go ahead.
Arlene Blanco and Sarah McMahon. No, I don't know. Tonight. So so this is a good question because by Saturday, yeah, if some people listen on Saturday, then they'll know whether we were right or not. So I'm really intrigued by this Danny Sabs Marcos Breno fight. We had Guillermo Cruz spoke to Marcos Breno earlier this week. I think who spoke to Dan? Mike, did you talk to Danny this week? Damon?
I did.
Someone talk to Sabs?
I spoke to Danny.
You did.
I
spoke to Danny. So yeah, Danny loves to give Mike Heck his time. So you talked to Danny Sabs. I know he talked to Marcos Breno. Sabs a huge favorite. I think last time I checked, -4 or something, well over -400. So I think the expectation is that he's going to take Breno down, hold him down, and grind him out. And that's very likely what could happen. But I think Breno is also an intriguing prospect. So I'm interested in that fight. I think it's the right. I was going to say open the main card. There's one fight before that, but I think it's a good fight to have early on the main card. I'm not picking against Danny Sabatello. I just would like to see. I think there's a chance Marcos Breno gives him a little more trouble than people are expecting. But again, by the time if you listen to this on Saturday, you'll know whether I was right or if I was way off base. And it's 30-26 Sabatello across the board.
What do you think, Jose?
Tim Johnson, baby. I'm here for some sloppy heavyweights. Tim Johnson is fighting a heavyweight coming off back-to-back split decision losses. Tim Johnson has lost 3 in a row. One of them was to the husk of Fedor Emelianenko in Russia. I'm here for some bad heavyweight MMA. And I love Tim Johnson. He's a nice guy. Like, I can't say he has been in some boring fights, but I'm here for some sloppy heavyweights. It's a good palate cleanser. It is a good palate cleanser because the first two, like You got Danny Sabs, you got the Arlene McMahon fight, Tim Johnson and Syed palate cleanser to the title fight. Perfect placement. I don't want to hear anything about Tim Johnson doesn't deserve the co-main event slot. Perfect placement.
Oh no, I agree. Yeah. Tim Johnson's one of those fighters like sometimes when he wins is whatever, but when he loses big. Like,
he's a guy that when he loses, like his feet leave the ground.
Yeah.
Also, like, oh my god, I love it. His resume is so fun. He lost in 60 seconds to Chet Congo in Uniondale, New York, and then got revenge with a split decision win in Paris. Oh, what a man. What a man. Incredible. Also has a win over Tyrell Fortune, Matt Mitrione, and then just got absolutely dusted by Valentin Moldavsky and Leighton Bissell. What a man.
I love the Killis Mota Kenneth Cross fight. That should be fun. I like the Levon Chikeli Michael Lombardo fight. Those should be two competitive fights. But it's probably the Danny Sabs Marcus Breno fight. So this is what Danny Sabatello had to say about Marcus Breno, and I'll clean this up. I think his stand-up is actually better than Raufeon Stots' stand-up. I saw his last fight against Josh Hill, and he beat the S out of Josh Hill, but you can't really gauge too good on how well this guy is because Josh Hill effing sucks too. So I don't really know how good this guy is, but I could tell by the way he punches and throws kicks. He's very balanced with his strikes. He throws with a lot of power. He's got a lot of power shots. If he does connect with you, he can put the lights out. So he is a dangerous opponent. He's not in the rankings, but he does have a good record. He's gotten some wins. He's gotten the win over Josh Hill. He's kind of climbing the ranks. But yeah, this should be a guy that I absolutely tune up. I should beat the F out of this guy. And he's a minus 410 favorite. And I kind of think that's what's going to happen here. But we'll see. I like Breno. He just hasn't fought a guy like Sabs yet.
Gentlemen, we have an update on Priscilla Cachoeira.
Oh boy!
Again, this will be old news by the time if people listen on Saturday. But right now, live, Priscilla Cachoeira did show up for the weigh-ins about 15 minutes ago. 130 pounds, and no, she's not competing in the bantamweight bout. She is competing in a flyweight bout. She missed the limit. Throw in the 1 pound allowance. She still missed the limit by 4 pounds. I said earlier she'd missed by 3 pounds before, so she surpassed that now. I have a feeling this will not be the fight of the night on Saturday, and there's a good chance this fight does not happen. That's a huge weight miss. This is in Las Vegas, 4 pounds over. Could go through. Karine Silva, at the very least, going to be asking for a lot of money, but don't be surprised if it's agreed upon as a catch weight today, and then on Saturday morning we find out that Priscilla Cachoeira is not medically cleared. This has happened a few times, I think, and not just with her, with fighters in general. So it's definitely not official. That bout is anything but official right now.
Good. I stand with my perhaps then about the fight of the night.
That was a strong hedge. That was a strong hedge, Mike.
Strong hedge. Double it down on that.
Yeah. Cachoeira versus Deanna Bennett next week.
Ooh, do it.
All right.
Take a few more. We got a few minutes.
Yeah. All right. Let's keep this nice.
Will Bellator ever get out of its own way? I think
they made some mistakes. Yeah, they made some mistakes.
Yeah, this weekend has not gone very well for them in some cases. I actually think they've had a really good year so far.
Yeah.
I think they've had a really good year. They had some compelling cards, some compelling main events. The March card with Daniel James and Marcelo Golm, pretty rough on paper, but actually ended up being a really fun card if you watched it. And now, yeah, we're kind of here with flyweight fights that probably shouldn't have been booked. And now we have a weird main event on tonight with the stakes being very strange and random and almost unprecedented. And then we lost kind of the people's main event of the second one because they booked it in a weight class that they don't actually have. So yeah, I think they've had a good year, but this has just not been a good week for them, if we're being honest. Anybody else want to chime in?
If you want to know how they're going to turn it around, I'm just saying we might have a feature and a podcast coming out this Sunday that if people listen to it, theoretically puts me in charge of Bellator, and I may have some.
Maybe we don't know.
So We don't know. There's a little teaser though, guys. I think we've teased on some other shows already. So a little draft talk, a little NFL draft related MMA content. Some of your favorite MMA fighting personalities taking over some promotions. I do happen to be in charge of Bellator. If you want to know how I turned the ship around in one draft, in one podcast, make sure to check that out this Sunday.
How did you all decide who was going to be president of which promotion?
I think it was
Random
shuffle.
Right.
Supposedly, we trusted Jed, so supposedly random.
Well, there's your first mistake.
Well, last year I got a promotion that isn't even on display for this draft because they just don't do U.S. events anymore, and they lost whatever buzz they had. That is Eagle FC. They have been replaced in this upcoming draft by another organization. I think the draft is pretty interesting. AK, you're either going to love AK's draft or you're not going to love it. And there's one pick in particular on the podcast that you just have to listen to because AK steals the draft, one specific pick.
Listen,
and he gets everybody
last
pissed.
year.
It's wonderful.
Last year in our online poll, there's an article that goes along with it, and the people voted in the poll, and only 2% said I won the draft. Guess what? I'm going for 1% this year, baby. Number one, 1%. That's what I want. Don't vote for me.
I can't wait to see how these percentages play out because I still feel like I won last year's draft, like in hindsight. The way it all played out, I think I won the draft.
But back to Bellator quick. I've always felt Bellator made a mistake just booking Carmouche Bennett when they should have booked Carmouche versus Kana Watanabe. I felt like that was just
or Lima.
Or just put in Lima in, and do that on that way we work. I don't know.
They train together, though, don't they? Like not like Liz
they
and
they don't train
like
together anymore.
tight.
They don't train together anymore. And I can't remember exactly, but I think they said that Lima they'll fight each other for like their retirement fight, that type of thing.
Yeah.
And I know Lima's kind of toward the end. She's talked publicly about kind of, she doesn't have too many fights left. She wants to move on in life. But I just and book Lima versus Bennett. So the potential weight miss wouldn't be as dramatic, devastating to the card. And I don't know. I never liked this matchup. I don't know why they put Bennett in the title fight with all her weight misses. Just put Kana back in there. I know she lost to Carmouche, but she lost in 30 seconds, kind of a flash KO. I think that's worthy of a rematch, considering how good Kana is. But yeah, Bellator is going to Bellator sometimes. All right.
Yep. You know what? They have there's a free agent on the market, Cynthia Calvillo. Sign her, bring her in, put her at flyweight.
Yeah, back at flyweight, yeah. And she's fun. Give her some fun fights, yeah. One more about Bellator.
Is James the Alley Cat Gonzalez a live underdog against Pico? He is trained by the legendary Ray Longo. What do you think? What are the odds here? I would say Pico's probably the biggest favorite on the whole card. Would be my guess.
It's like he's like minus
730. Minus
730. That might have changed.
Come back on. Maybe James getting some love from the gambling community. So
do you know anything about him? I know nothing about his opponent.
So James is the guy who
at jiu-jitsu.
Very good. Pat Sabatini, who is in the UFC now. The only CFFC like live event that I covered for a website in my career was CFFC 81, Gonzalez versus Sabatini, and Gonzalez like ripped Sabatini's arm to shreds in that fight. 46-second submission. It was friggin' nasty. And he won, I believe he won the belt. Yeah, he did. He won the Cage Fury featherweight title. Dude's good. The dude is he's real good. So, but it is short notice, and Aaron Pico is a freak of nature. So his striking's not great. And I don't know how he's going to deal with Pico's like top control wrestling. I get where the question is asked, but I don't think he's super duper live. What do you think, AK?
I was gonna say like almost anyone that's that massive of an underdog against Pico should be considered live, but I think he has put like a lot of his inconsistency behind him. That last fight was kind of like a freak injury, right? I mean, maybe he would have lost anyway. It was a tough opponent, but I think that Pico is at a point. I think he's finally matured. It's so hard not to think of him as the guy who, like, has had some weird setbacks. I understand that. It's hard to shake that off. But yeah, I don't think Gonzalez is that live. Again, live in the sense that, no one, I don't feel like anyone should in Bellator should be like that massively. He's plus 530. I'm looking at right now. That's pretty high. But no, I'll go. If I have to answer the question yes or no, I'll say no. He is not alive. He is not a live dog. I'm very confident Pico styles on him and gets a finish this Saturday.
Yep.
All right. And one more question, a bit off topic.
James has lost to some pretty good dudes too. Like Mike Trezano twice, Bill Algeo, Levi Moles, Phil Caracappa. Those are his losses. All pretty solid guys. Out of all these new fight announcements yesterday, what are you all most excited for? Jose, I'll begin with you. What are you most excited for from all of these fight announcements and date shifts and all of that fun stuff?
Yeah, well, there's only really 3 new fights because Oliveira, Dariush, and Emmett Topuria got new dates from their original bookings, or what was reported as their original bookings. I would probably say Gilbert Burns, Bilal Muhammad, solely because it's a 5-round fight. I think that's pretty interesting. It's on super short notice. Both men have tweeted a whole bunch that they'll fight anyone, so kudos to these men for taking a fight against, top 5 fight, like a top 5 person in their division. Like, I just wish, like, in realistically, Bilal Muhammad should be fighting for the title and Gilbert Burns should be fighting Colby Covington for the #1 contender fight. That is what should be happening. But man, if Gilbert Burns or Bilal Muhammad win this last-minute fight convincingly, there's going to be a lot of Leon Edwards has done a lot of interviews saying he wants to fight a guy that deserves. I know that word is silly, but when the champion is saying it and he's being a little more picky, I think there's going to be a lot of questions whoever wins this fight if they leapfrog Colby Covington for the next title shot, because Dana White loves guys that help him out. So that's my answer. Dariush and Oliveira is an awesome fight, and that's also again, Dariush should be fighting for the title right now. Yeah, that's the answer is Gilbert Burns, Bilal Muhammad, because that has the most title implications in all of them. Plus, it's a 5-round co-main event, and I love that. I think a lot of co-main events need to be 5 rounds.
AK, I'll let you go. I already know what you're going to say, so I'll just lead you into it. We had already confirmed this fight, but why is the answer the fight for the middleweight title between Brendan Allen and Jack Hermansson?
My best friend, I wasn't going to go in that direction, though. You're right. That's a very obvious choice. Perhaps you can wax more poetic on that than I am. Hermansson and Brendan Allen, it was destiny. I believe on Otno, it was mentioned many, many, many times by our brilliant listeners. So I don't know. We shouldn't even take the credit for making that happen. I think the universe made that happen. I'm oddly intrigued by the Chris Daukaus dropping down to 205. I think it had been suggested before, and it makes so much sense because he's on this losing streak at heavyweight. But for some reason, I just thought he'd be reluctant to do it. I don't know why. In my mind, I was like, it's something he should do, and if he can do it safely, he should. But good for him for that drop. Let's see what happens. Hopefully, he has better luck than we just saw that Tanner Boser had. He does not have an easy fight. Khalil Roundtree was the man who I said theoretically I would have loved to see him welcome Alex Pereira going up to the light heavyweight division. Instead, he's welcoming a heavyweight and Chris Daukaus down to the light heavyweight division. So it's interesting. But for a guy who's on a streak of knockouts, throwing him in there against Khalil Roundtree seems ill-advised. But maybe Chris Daukaus, mixes the martial arts. Jiu-jitsu's all over his ass. I don't know. I am very interested in seeing how that turns out and what this means for Chris Daukaus, because it wasn't long ago that we were including Chris Daukaus in our names of young, intriguing guys at heavyweight. And he did enough to earn, I think a top 10 ranking. I want to say he made the top 10 in the MMA Fighting Global rankings. So I know heavyweight, light heavyweight, different divisions, but light heavyweight isn't that deep either. So if he shows some stuff at 205, he could be a guy we're talking about in the rankings by the end of the year. So that's interesting to me.
Casey, what did you think of the July 1st main event between Sean Strickland and Abu Magomedov? That was not on my bingo card, I have to say.
That's one of those, when I saw that come up, I was like, okay, let me go to Tapology and see who this guy Strickland is fighting. That's what that was. I was like, okay, I've seen him fight, but it was, yeah, that was a weird one. I was like, oh, a main event. Okay, Sean Strickland main event against, yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, it was all right.
Abu's good, but he's got. Someone asked us on Twitter, and I thought it was a really interesting question. Is this the biggest step up in competition? Is this one of the biggest step up in competitions UFC history? From Dustin Stoltzfus to Sean Strickland in a main event.
Yeah, I was considering how we talk about, like, say we talk about Bo Nickel. Like, if they want to put Sean Strickland versus Bo Nickel, I would have been like, okay, but like, because that would have felt like the same jump to me. But it would have made more sense. This one just, I don't. Yeah, it's weird. It's a big jump up in competition against a guy we weren't really going his last fight going, oh yeah, he's ready for a top 10 guy. I don't recall any of us having that conversation. Going, he's ready for a top 10 guy. Let's see it. It's just all right. It's a fight.
Sean don't care. Sean's just like, all right, I'll fight him.
Okay, good on Sean. Sean.
He wasn't ranked, but Alex Pereira going from Andreas Michailidis to Bruno Silva, who at the time had won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He was on a 7-fight knockout streak. 3 of them were in the UFC, and even the one outside the UFC, he knocked out Alexander Slamenko in the first round. So to go from that to Bruno Silva was a big jump up. But yeah, but Bruno wasn't ranked. Well, he might have been, but I don't know.
Yeah, but he wasn't. And I think style wise, we still saw it favorable for Pereira and Bruno Silva's knockout streak. There were slobber knockers where you kind of flip a coin and it just kind of came up Bruno Silva 7 times in a row. He's that type of knockout fighter. I felt like
Bruno Silva's the only guy to take Alex Pereira to the scorecards.
Yeah, okay.
That's a good point. Oh yeah, Dana had a lot to announce. I mean, a lot of the stuff we known, some new dates, but I'm glad we're getting Dariush Oliveira on June 10th. And if we don't get it, Oliveira, that's the Vancouver card. That one needed it. So we got that. And that should be fun. All right. This was fun. We have lots of combat sports. Stay tuned to MMAfighting.com, and we'll keep you updated on everything from the stuff we talked about and even the things we didn't talk about. Weird boxing cards and really good boxing cards. We got everything for you. MMAfighting.com. We will have you covered. So thank you for watching, everybody. For AK, for Casey, for Jose, I am Mike Heck, and for Kirby as well. See you tomorrow, everybody. Or tonight for Bellator.
Happy birthday, Kirby.
It is his birthday.